Look, my perspectives are fortified and my commentary gives jolts. So make sure you have your coffee of the month and your favorite mug to sip out of. Because I might say some things on this show that'll make you, take a few sips and think for a little bit. My friends know me as Kiki. For the rest of you, please put Miss in front of that. And please understand that the purpose of Cafe Commentary is to elevate and rise. So if it's not fortifying our lives for the betterment of ourselves, we have to change our elevation. Because life is not perfect and sometimes we have to shuffle through the BS to get to the real, you dig? Now look, the views on this show are my own and are not necessarily the views of Club Fortified and or its affiliates. So with everything I say or do on this show, it's assumptive because I stay in my own lane, honey, and actually don't know definitively. So please do your own research before you come for me and my opinions, okay? Now let's get this show started. My goodness, September the 21st is the last day of summer and it's almost here. So that means we have one more emotionally intelligent series to cover here on Cafe Commentary. And you, yes, you have the opportunity to enjoy our Fortified Summer Vibes specialty coffee blend until the end of the summer. And you're able to download our free drink recipe for this summer, Fortified Citrus Cream Refresher, that you can make to sip one while you're listening to this month's show. So please, go order the coffee of the month at clubfortified.com and download our drink recipe for the summer. Our hot trending topics for August are Supreme Court Greenlights dismantling of the Department of Education, what it means for America, government cuts $1 billion in school mental health grants, a threat to students' well-being, executive order on homelessness, compassion or control, court rejects Trump's Birthright citizenship order, why this ruling matters to all Americans. My goodness, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're sipping with me. I'm your host, Miss Kiki, and welcome to Cafe Commentary, where we brew up bold conversations, strong opinions, and a splash of truth, okay? Now listen, I may say some things you don't agree with, but that's what we do here, okay? Now, we keep it real, we sip and we think. Look, for those of you who know me, I'm down here in Texas, and yes, we do have some shindiggity going on down here. Oh, my goodness. The feel-like temp is 100 degrees, but baby, look, I got my iced and delicious slushy coffee of the month. I'm out here sitting on my porch, enjoying this beautiful day, okay, honey? Please, please don't disturb my vibe, baby. Don't disturb this groove, honey. Look, I'm being emotionally intelligent, okay? If you haven't, go to Club Fortified and download the free drink recipe. I think you'll like it, okay? So look, let's get right into it. The Supreme Court just greenlit dismantling the Department of Education. They're dismantling the Department of Education. Oh, my goodness. You heard that right, okay? Look, an entire department that's been around since 1979. Gone. Ooh, baby. Now, some folks are clapping, about this. They're excited, right? Saying education should be handled only by the states. But here's the thing. When you cut the DOE, you're not just cutting bureaucracy. You're cutting equity. Yeah. So education in this country is already unequal. Wealthy districts thrive while poor districts scrape by with outdated textbooks, unpaid teachers. Yeah, unpaid teachers. Can you believe that? They already don't make enough, but then they being unpaid. Without the DOE setting national standards and protection, so to speak, that gap actually widens, okay? And let's be real, who suffers? It's our kids. And when the kids suffer, guess what? America's future suffer. Because what? The kids is our future, huh? The kids are our future. Keep that in mind, okay? Now, do we really trust every state to play, fair when we've already seen history say otherwise? Do we? Some states can afford iPads for every child. But in reality, others can't afford working AC in their classrooms. And you want to tell me that's fair? Huh? Nah, that's not fair. Common sense will tell you that, baby. And education isn't just a budget line. It's a right, or it should be, huh? It should be. In all of our minds, we need to make sure that education is important. That's not up for a discussion or an argument. But look, when you cut it, you cut the future. Okay? And I'm making this short and sweet because I said what I said. You hear what I'm saying? I said what I said. And who gonna do me something? Huh? Here at Club Fortified, we believe funding education is not optional. It's not. It's actually a right. You know, education is the foundation of opportunity. And dismantling the DOE, the Department of Education, it's like pulling the floorboards, out of a house you still expect people to live in. Huh? You setting them up. Look, I ain't gonna curse, but you setting it ablaze. Don't do it. Baby, if the DOE cut didn't make you mad, upset, angry, look, this one should. Okay? And if that wasn't enough, thinking about the Department of Education being cut, the funding being cut, huh? The government just slashed $1 billion. Listen to me now. $1 billion. Yeah, with a B. From school mental health grants. Oh, baby, hold on. Let me give me another drink. Cause look, these programs gave schools, the counselors, the psychologists, teachers, classrooms, basically, the resources to help kids manage anxiety, depression, trauma, you name it, okay? Now you're telling me we live in a time where kids face school shootings, social media pressures, broken homes, and we're going to cut the very programs that help them to cope. Baby, ooh, my goodness, look. That's just not cruel, huh? It's dangerous. Very dangerous. Because look, think back to when you were a teen. We've been there before, awkward, insecure, figuring it out. We're trying to figure out who we are or who we were. Look, now imagine that with no support. Imagine that. You got social media breathing down your neck. Baby, these kids nowadays need help, honey, not budget cuts. Okay? Just remember being a teen. Baby, I called myself dropping it like it's hot, doing the Tootsie Roll outside. I think I used to run track. I danced. I was a lieutenant of pep squad. Baby, I had all kind of things going on. Dating at a young age, didn't know what I was doing. But imagine these kids today, they are facing, more pressures than we faced back then. Because everything is on show float. Everybody want to see something on social media. Everybody want to live up to false expectations, huh? Because you got these fake ass couples on social media talking about they living their best life while their head being thrown up against the wall. You got the little girls talking about how they want to lose weight. And they're actually the perfect size, baby, at your age, honey. Don't worry about, don't worry about what's going on, the body shaming, all this stuff that these kids is facing. And they want to do this cutting. Huh? Mental health is important. Okay? But what are the consequences, though? I'll tell you what it is. You're going to have more bullying, more dropouts. And guess what? Untreated trauma. Okay? Look. These grants weren't just, numbers on a spreadsheet, right? They paid for real people in schools, counselors, psychologists, social workers, the folks kids could actually turn to when life got heavy. They actually funded programs to fight bullying, to teach kids coping skills, and even crisis hotlines when tragedy hit. My God, today. In other words, they were lifelines, and cutting them. That's like pulling the safety net out of from under a kid, okay, who's already walking a tightrope. Oh, my goodness. Look, this is the thing. And this is what y'all need to really think about. When you neglect, student mental health, you're not saving money. You're actually planting seeds for bigger crises later. Okay? More dropouts, more crime, like I said, more despair. And I just want to get this clear and let you know what Club Fortified stand. I may be the official host, but me and Club Fortified, we're kind of aligned on some things. Some we are, some not. But look, at Club Fortified, we all stand firm. Mental health is health. It's something that should be looked at like you value wealth. Well, value mental health like wealth, okay? Period. Our kids deserve counselors and not cutbacks. Look, I'm hold on, let me take a sip of this right quick. Baby, it's hot out here, but I'm chilling and I'm enjoying this day, honey. But look, let me tell you this. I've been homeless before. I'm talking about not a pot to piss in, a window to throw it out of. You hear me? And even with being homeless before, I still had to pay close to $2,000 worth of bills every month, baby. Every month, okay? That means I had to not only keep paying that $2,000 a month, but I had to up my game up to get more income in order to afford some things. And one thing that I found out, now, remind y'all, I don't smoke no cigarettes. I don't do no drugs. Every now and then I might have an alcoholic beverage when I go to the taco restaurant and get me a margarita, something like that. But I'm not a drinker, okay? But when I was going through what I was going through, people tried to kick me while I was down. I remember going to a self-help agency, and one of those self-help agencies asked me to do a urine analysis test because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't on drugs. I said, oh, baby, I'll go ahead on and pop that top off for you, honey. How much piss do you want? Look, let's talk about the executive order on homelessness, okay? And on the surface, it sounds like it's about compassion, right? Helping people get off the streets. But when you dig deeper, you see a lot of control going on. On the surface, it sounds compassionate, but the policies often criminalize being poor. You heard what I said. Criminalizing being poor. Imagine that. Imagine inflation is stacked up. Pay not rising. Pay is still the same. Been the same for, I say, about last 10 years, last 20 years. I don't know. But you ain't getting no more money every month, baby. You got to create other streams of income, right? In order to get more money, in order to afford more things, right? And inflation is through the roof. They say it drops, but it goes back up. Girl, let me tell you this. Anytime that I used to go into the grocery store and go purchase me a $7 pack of hamburger meat, and now that same 7-pack of hamburger meat is now $12 and $13. I'm paying more for less. Look, I've seen people lose their jobs, get sick, and within months end up on the street, okay? Nobody dreams of that type of life. Some of these orders are about criminalizing homelessness with this administration, okay? Ticketing people for sleeping outside, moving encampments without, providing enough housing solutions. Listen. Nobody wakes up one day and chooses to be homeless. I'll say that again, because most folks are there because of skyrocketing rent, job loss, mental illness, or addiction without proper treatment. You heard what I said. You don't know what a person is going through. You don't know what they did in order to get to where they had to go. Sometimes those situations are uncontrollable and they got to go make a way and do what they got to do in order to survive in life. Life is not perfect. Everybody is not handed a golden spoon to live with. You hear what I'm saying? So look, you can give somebody a $200 ticket for sleeping on a bench, right? But they don't have $2 for food. How is that helping? How is that helping? So look, what's the answer? Housing first, right? Compassion first, right? Treating homeless people like criminals doesn't fix the problem. It just hides it. Look what they're doing down there in D.C. Where them people going? Where are those homeless people going? Are there, different programs that they were able to create in order for the homeless people to take advantage of and go and get the opportunity to have a place to stay, to get some type of training in order to do what they need to do to get the extra money they need in order to afford these inflated prices? Huh? I mean, I'm not perfect. I don't know the answer. You know what I'm saying? It was only the grace of God that got me out of the situation. I was homeless for about almost going on a year, right up under a year. I say about 9 months. Huh? About 9 months. After making so much money and doing so much things and not having to, to worry about going into the store and looking at prices. Then it just changed. And I'm not going to say it changed overnight. Prices steady rose, bills steady rose. I had to do more things, vice versa. These people are going through things that could actually be helped. The government can actually create programs. They can actually do things, do surveys to where they can figure out how to help people cope with homelessness. Like I say, I don't know the answer, but I mean, that's common sense. That's common sense, because when you don't have the resources, you don't have the help. If you don't know how to go and get those resources, then how can you get the help? Look, the solution seems like it's harder done than being an emotionally intelligent situation, right? My goodness. Like I say, housing first and supportive services. We need those resources, y'all. Look, and I'll leave y'all with this on this subject before we get to the next subject. Club Fortified, we taking a stance on this. We believe that people, are important. Very important. Not everybody. And I know it's crazy to say that because not everybody actually believes that. We believe people deserve dignity. They deserve dignity, not punishment. If you want to solve homelessness, give people a roof. Give them a plan. And support to rebuild their lives. Huh? Y'all know how it says it take a village to raise a child? It takes a community to survive homelessness. All of these specialists we got out here, psychiatrists, social workers, look. I'm not saying, let's take care of a person. But the Bible says if you teach a man how to fish, y'all know the rest. They can get it on their own, baby. Teach them how to get it on their own so they don't fall back down. And if they do fall back down, at least they know how to get back up. You feel what I'm saying? Ooh, my goodness. My goodness. Listen, go ahead on and take a sip right quick. Because I'm going to need you to catch this joke. Look, baby, if you were born here in America, right? Guess what? You are an American. Period. Why is that so hard to actually accept by some people? Look, that's just not law. That's the Constitution, baby. Look, the court just rejected Trump's executive order trying to end birthright citizenship. And let me break this down. Birthright citizenship is the idea that if you're born here, you're an American. It's in the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, okay? And some folks want to roll it back. They saying stuff like, people are abusing the system. But let's keep it real. Ending birthright citizenship doesn't just affect immigrants. It actually affects all Americans. You know, once you start chipping away at the U.S. Constitution, the rights, no one's actually safe. Ooh, my goodness. Look, stripping birthright citizenship is dangerous, okay? A slippery slope to everyone's rights being questioned. That's what it is. Funny? Not funny. How people, you know, they want to say things like, oh, they shouldn't be born here. But look, it's funny how people want the U.S. Constitution to matter until it's inconvenient. America's beauty is diversity, right? That's the heartbeat of this country. That's what that. I mean, I don't understand why people are not understanding that. That baffles me. Look, taking away citizenship is not patriotic. It's not patriotic. You know, it's panic. That's what that is. And let's be clear. America was built on immigration. The strength of this country is diversity. You know, taking away birthright citizenship is not just unconstitutional. Let me get that out right. I'm over here speaking tongue-tied. You know, it's not just unconstitutional, okay? It's un-American. Like I said, and I said before, one thing I do agree with, baby, at Club Fortified, we stand on inclusion. Every child born in American soil deserves the right to call this land home. Yeah. Real life. So look, you done had your baby on American soil, but you yourself is not from here. That baby is an American. And really, what we need to do, what we need to go further is when you have your baby, you an American too. Baby, because you could still pay these taxes. We in a doggone debt crisis. Trillions, billions, whatever, in debt. I don't know the number. Y'all go look it up. We need some of these bills paid over here. Who want to come and help pay these bills, baby? My mama used to say, lay 5 bills on the table and tell me which one you gonna pay. Who wants to give who wants to give to the American dream? Ooh, my goodness. Tell me if I'm wrong. Y'all can weigh in on it. Y'all know what the number is. 832-377-5085. You can call the number and weigh in on all that. If I said something wrong, let me know, baby. We can have a good discussion. Okay? Ooh. Look, you know what? As I sit here finishing my cup of coffee, my iced coffee, I can't help but to think about the threads tying all these stories together, right? The Supreme Court greenlighting the dismantling of Department of Education, $1 billion cuts to school mental health programs, the executive order, treating homelessness like a crime, and a battle over whether children born here should even be considered American citizens. Ooh, my goodness. You know what? When you put all of that side by side, it paints a picture of a country at a crossroads, okay? On one side, there's the America we say we are. The America that believes in freedom, opportunity, dignity, justice for all. The America that promises if, you're born here, you belong here. The America that says every child deserves a chance, every family deserves shelter, and every person deserves respect. But then there's the other side, the one we don't like to admit exists. The side where budgets matter more than kids' mental health. Where, political points matter more than people sleeping on the streets. Well, dismantling progress is celebrated and diversity is seen as a threat instead of a strength. Ooh, my goodness. And here's the hard truth though. Look, the decisions that we're watching right now, they're not just policy. They're actually values. They show us who we are willing to protect and who we're willing to push aside, okay? So here's my question to you. The sipping with me today. Which America do you want to live in? I'll say that again. For those of you who are sipping with me today, which America do you want to live in? Look, the one that invests in its children, cares for the vulnerability, the value, and embraces everyone born on this soil. Is that the one? Or the one that keeps cutting, criminalizing, and closing the door? Because at the end of the day, look, this isn't just about laws, right? It's about legacy. What kind of country are we living in? What kind of country are we actually leaving for the next generation? Baby, I'm almost old, baby. I'm still young. I'm up there, but I'm still young at heart. But baby, I want to be able to look towards our next generation and say, oh man, I believe in you. I can count on you. Look, and this is the serious part. At Club Fortified, we stand for inclusion. We stand for mental health support. We stand for housing with dignity. And yes, we stand for education as a right, not a privilege, baby. I may not have all the answers, but I do know this. Silence is not an option. We've got to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay fortified. You hear me? So as I close out today's Cafe Commentary show, I leave you with this. Think about where you stand. Think about, who you stand with. And more importantly, think about what kind of America you want to build. Because every decision we accept, every cut we ignore, every right that we defend or dismiss, it's a brick in that foundation. Are you adding to it or are you taking away from it? Look, I'm going to tell you this. Sip slow, think deep, and until next time, baby, stay safe, emotionally intelligent, and always stay fortified. They calling me.
Another great show for the record books. Thanks for listening. Discover the perfect blend of flavor and conversation. Download our drink recipe of the month, featuring a creative twist on coffee, and elevate your mornings with our premium coffee of the month, crafted for true coffee lovers at clubfortified.com. Don't forget to tune in every third Sunday of each month for the Cafe Commentary Show, where Ms. Kiki shares her thought-provoking perspectives on trending topics. Sip, savor, and connect at Club Fortified, your ultimate destination for coffee and conversation and life hacks to help you elevate and rise.